The Hour of Joy with Joy Sutton starts now.
It's the hour of joy, joy. It's the hour of joy, joy. It's the hour of joy, joy. It's the hour of joy, joy.
I'm here at the Child Care Network spending time with these adorable little ones. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Good. And what is your name, sweetie?
Mia.
Mia. And we have little Mia and her friends here. And you know, for many couples, life would not be complete without children. Unfortunately, 1 in 6 couples has trouble getting pregnant. It's such a common problem that today we're talking about infertility. My first guest went to great lengths to have a child. Here's their story. Paul and Amy Ridenauer can't envision their lives without their daughter Kaylee.
You got daddy.
I knew I wanted to have kids and didn't know how much I really did until after already having Kaylee. And it's the way it changes your life is just so much for the better.
But having Kaylee didn't come easy for the couple. After trying unsuccessfully for months on their own, they turned to a fertility specialist for help.
At that first appointment, he diagnosed me with polycystic ovary syndrome just by a simple ultrasound, which means that it's difficult, or my body doesn't tend to ovulate at all.
But that was only one of Amy's challenges. It turned out she also had a problem with her uterus that required surgery. Doctors also discovered a tumor on her ovaries.
We got to the point where
Bye.
just dreaded going to a doctor's appointment because it seemed like every one we went to, we found out there was something bad and there was going to be an extra step in the process.
But they overcame those obstacles, only to try infertility drugs for a year with no success.
Every time got harder and harder and harder because you're so hopeful, and then it's the crash every time when you find out it didn't work.
Many of their friends had no idea what they were going through.
That was something that also made it extremely hard, was people asking, oh, you've been married for so many years, are you planning on having kids? Not knowing that, for more than a year we've been trying unsuccessfully. And at the same time, having our close friends getting pregnant and starting to have kids, and then seeing so many young people out there that are having kids that didn't want them. It was really painful to see that when we were trying so hard and we wanted it so much.
Finally, they decided to try in vitro fertilization, and it worked.
I actually found out and then was like, what did we do? Which is not the reaction Paul was quite expecting. Yeah. But no, we were excited.
Just watching Kaylee grow and the whole learning process as her brain is learning how to do things differently has just been a huge joy in our life.
So much joy, they decided to go through the process again.
What's in Mommy's tummy? A baby what?
Baby boy.
And what are you going to be?
A big sister.
The Ridenauers are here to share more about their experience along with their fertility specialist, Dr. Marwan Shaykh. And Amy and Paul, I want to get to you in just a second, but first I want to start with you, Dr. Shaykh. For people who have heard of in vitro fertilization but don't really understand what it is, give us a brief synopsis.
In vitro fertilization basically means fertilizing the egg in vitro in the lab. Most of the time when the problem is the sperm not being able to get to the egg to fertilize it naturally, we do it in the lab. That's in vitro fertilization.
Is that something that most couples need when you're looking at fertility problems?
Well, initially in the early 80s, the only patients that were candidate for in vitro fertilizations were patients with tubal disease. But it evolved later on where basically in vitro fertilization is a treatment to almost all infertility reasons.
Oh, wow. So you can use it for all infertility reasons.
Yes.
And I think as we look at the process of that, we're wondering, Amy, from a woman's perspective, what did your body go through? What was the process of getting to that?
I guess it's not a whole lot different until about a month before you decide to do in vitro. Then you have to take shots for about, I think, 2 weeks before they decide to retrieve the eggs. And those shots are to, I guess, help you make more eggs than your body normally does. During that process, the hormones levels change a lot, and it can be a very emotional time on top of what you're trying to do. You're trying to have a baby, and I know that's an emotional time for a lot of couples. And but I know a lot of people get scared about having to do shots every day.
And you had to do that?
We had to do that actually this time around. My husband had to give me the shots every day, and he was really good about doing it. You do things that you have to do to get what you want. So it's just something you have to go through. It is an emotional roller coaster. It is a lot of ups and downs. With my daughter, we had the process canceled once, and that was definitely a heartbreak because my hormone levels got too high. So they had to cancel it, and we had to try again the next month. But it's something that you can go through, and I don't think it's a whole lot different, especially once you find out you're pregnant. It's not that much different than a regular pregnancy.
Like we're having a baby.
Yeah.
And so I guess, Paul, for you, when you look at the process that you had to go through, I know Amy's talking about the highs and lows, just the emotional roller coaster of it all. For a couple who's watching the show today, who is even considering this, because it's so common, 1 in 6 couples, potentially dealing with this, what would be your advice to them?
You have to do what your heart tells you to do. I mean, looking back on it, I think the emotional roller coaster is the biggest thing. And so it's very important to be there for each other. And leading up to infertility or into IVF, you're going to probably do other things to try to get pregnant. And your body starts getting heightened to all the signs of becoming pregnant because that's what you're trying to do. And you start to feel that, we're feeling really tired right now, so that's a sign of pregnancy, and then you find out that it didn't happen again, and you get the emotional down, and to just go at it with reserved optimism. Don't be pessimistic about it, but I mean we really wanted to try to have a child on our own, or our own child, and after going through it all, it was just so totally worth it. So.
Well, totally worth it. You did it again.
Yes.
To go through the whole process again.
Yes.
What are you having this time? You have a beautiful little girl, and do you know already?
A little boy.
A little boy.
Yep.
Wow. Well, congratulations. Congratulations. So very excited for the second process. Well, we thank you for sharing your story, and I hope it will encourage another couple who sees this and says, maybe this is something that I should consider. And when we come back, we'll hear more from Dr. Shaykh about the treatment options and when a woman should consider freezing her eggs. Stay with us.
Dang it, Carl, we can't defend the neighborhood on this piece of...
Scooter's cool, leave it alone.
We need some real rolling thunder, Carl. Would you get off my...
Defending the neighborhood doesn't have to be this hard. Neither does getting a car. That's why superheroes choose Member One. Truth, justice, and extraordinary loans.
Now this is what I call some real rolling thunder.
Thanks to Member One, Carl and Roy can once again patrol the neighborhood. Member One, the official home of Carl, Roy, and superheroes everywhere.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kathy Jordan. As an executive coach and best-selling author, I've helped hundreds achieve career success, and I can help you too.
The Success Associates have given me the confidence and tools needed to take my career to the next level.
I started out unsure about my career direction. Now, thanks to Success Associates, I have a great career and life balance to enjoy it.
If you can dream it, we can achieve it. Open the door to your future. Call the Success Associates today.
Experience the salon and day spa that sets the standard in the Valley. Le Chevaux Salon and Day Spa. With an incredible staff of 35 waiting to serve your needs, Le Chevaux tailors to your every desire. From styling to manicures and pedicures, from laser hair removal and facials to massage and couple spa treatments. You'll also find all of your cosmetics, including Bare Minerals, Smashbox Cosmetics, and many others. Plus, find hair care from Bumble and Bumble, Diva Curl, and more. Experience Le Chevaux at our 2 new locations.
It's the hour of joy, joy. It's the hour of joy, joy.
Fertility and reproductive specialist Dr. Marwan Shaykh is here to help us understand the options that are available to couples dealing with infertility. I think one of the first questions I have, Dr. Shaykh, is how do you even know when it's time to get help?
Well, the most important thing is the age of the female patient. If a couple has been trying for a year, by definition, if they've been trying for a year, nothing happened, you need to see a fertility specialist. But the age of the patient is very important. So if you're 35 and you've tried for 6 months, 7 months, do not wait a year. I would seek the consultation with a specialist.
But a year is a good gauge. If after that year of trying you're still having some challenges,
Correct.
even in your 20s, you would probably
is
want to
correct.
seek some help.
That is correct.
Now, are you able to help most people?
We are, quite frankly, the main obstacle is the cost of the treatment.
How expensive is it?
In vitro fertilization with the medication costs between $8,000 and $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, for somebody who is 30 years old, they have a 60% chance of pregnancy. But for somebody who is 37 or 38, have about 20–25% chance of pregnancy. So it's really a gamble. That's why I'm saying the age is extremely important.
Now, I notice we see a lot of twins with celebrities these days.
Yes.
Are a lot of people choosing the option of in vitro? Is that what we're seeing?
Absolutely, yes. Celine Dion, I think she had to go through 9 cycles of in vitro fertilization before she got her twins. But yes, but these people can afford going through 9 cycles of in vitro fertilization. Most people can't.
And so that's why you typically see people put more than one egg in where you get the twins.
Unfortunately, that's true, but we're shying away from that because of the problem with multiple pregnancy, twins and triplets, and major problems with the babies.
Really?
Yes, because of prematurity, you know. God made us to carry only one baby, so if you're carrying more than 1, 2, or 3, or 4, then the risk of prematurity increases tremendously, and with it comes many problems.
I know we're talking about age, and I think a lot of women as they get older have heard about egg freezing. Who should consider this?
Well, egg freezing really is an emerging field because for a long time we could not freeze the egg. We could freeze the sperm because it doesn't have a lot of water in it, but the egg, the problem with the egg, when you freeze it, the water in it crystallizes and ruptures the egg. But now there's a process called vitrification where you can freeze the eggs. And there are mainly 2 candidates for that. One is a woman who has a career and she wants to delay her childbearing age. It would be a good idea to take some of her eggs and freeze them and preserve them.
Let me ask you this while you're saying that. How long can you preserve the eggs for?
Forever.
Forever?
Yes.
So if I was like 21 and said, I don't think I want to have my kids till I'm 45, I could save my eggs and use them in my 40s.
Right. As a matter of fact, just last week, I had a patient that came to me who had a baby 23 years ago, and she had frozen embryos that she wanted transferred. Now, she had a baby girl who's 23 years old, and now she wants those frozen embryos transferred. So if she does get pregnant, and there's a good chance she might because these were when she was younger, then that baby will actually be the twin of a brother who's 23 years older than her.
Interesting.
Yes.
So it gets kind of complicated. And I think about women getting older and say they did freeze their eggs and they want to have a baby at 60. Can they do that?
Yes, they can.
So the body, it's not so much the problem with carrying the child, it's the problem with the eggs. So if you can keep your eggs and implant them, you're okay.
The uterus does not age. That's the bottom line. The uterus does not age. It can always incubate the eggs, but the eggs do age.
So what's the oldest woman that you've done in vitro fertilization on?
Myself is 54, but that was with a donor egg. She used a donor egg, and she got pregnant 3 times, actually.
Really, at 54?
Yes.
So there's really no limit on it.
There is really no limit, but then you have to think, I mean, what is in the interest of the baby also? I mean, you don't want a 60-year-old mother to be, you know, carrying a baby, and then when she's 70, the baby is 10 years old. I mean, it's not fair for the child.
So you have to think about that when weighing whether or not it's a good option.
Correct.
I know you said there were two types of women who should consider this. What's
Correct.
the second type?
The second time, which is really a very important and emerging field now in the treatment of infertility, is women who have cancer, breast cancer, leukemias. These are women that can preserve their eggs before they go through chemotherapy or radiation.
Wow.
So as soon as they are diagnosed, they should immediately contact the fertility specialist so that the eggs can be removed and preserved prior to going through the treatment. There are organizations that will give financial help for these couples so that the treatment will not be a financial burden on these patients.
So there are places that if a couple, particularly when a cancer situation,
Yes.
that can help them pay for this.
Specifically for the cancer situation.
Which I would think this would have to be huge, because I think when you're thinking of a cancer diagnosis, wondering, you know, the radiation, chemotherapy, will you be able to have kids? And you're giving women that option.
It is a huge, and unfortunately, a lot of the oncologists, the cancer specialists, they do not bring that option to their patients. And we're trying to make them aware that this is an option, this is a very good option for these patients that, and a lot of people, I mean, with cancer now, they survive for a long time. And it would be nice to know that they can preserve their fertility.
And they can still have a baby.
And they can still have a baby.
Well, this is such an interesting topic that we want to open it up to our audience and see if we have any audience questions out there who want to ask you something more about the fertility process. Do we have a question from the audience?
Yes. What is the probability of multiple births?
Well, the probability really, again, depends on how many eggs you put back. That's number one. And the tendency nowadays is really to put only one egg. But again, as the woman grows in age, there is a need to put more than one egg to achieve a pregnancy. The American Society for Reproductive Medicine has certain guidelines, which basically says, in general, if you're less than 35, you put 1 or 2. If you're 35 to 40, you can put 2 to 3. If you're over 40, you can put 4, 5, 6 fertilized eggs.
So then you end up with the octomom.
Well, the octomom only because she's younger.
Yeah, because she had I mean, that's a lot of
She had like 8 eggs or something like that. But that, again, that's why they came with these guidelines. The octomom was in her 30s, so she really should have put only 1 or 2 maximum.
Well, let's take another question from our audience.
Hello, my question is this. I know sometimes that multiple eggs are fertilized, and that way it's multiple births or like triplets, that it's a very, very high risk. And it's a high risk to the mother and the babies, and how high is that risk? What is the percentages?
And I see what she's saying, because remember you talked about when you implant the egg, that if you implant too many and she has 3, she has 3 embryos growing at the same time, that there's a lot of risk to that. What's the risk with that?
Well, the risk, of course, for the babies is prematurity, delivering early. And there's a lot of problems that are associated with premature delivery. The risk for the mother, multiple pregnancy is associated with hypertension, toxemia, preeclampsia, diabetes in pregnancy, and most of these patients have to have a cesarean section, which in itself is a surgical procedure with its risks.
Well, we're going to take one last question from our audience.
Yes, during the series of injections, is there any added weight gain or loss?
That's a good question, because women are wondering if they're having to inject themselves to begin producing more eggs. Are they going to gain weight? What are the side effects of that?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the side effects because there is no weight gain from the injections themselves, but such as in the case of the Ridenours, if you remember, she mentioned that we had to cancel a couple of times. One of the risks these patients have is something called ovarian hyperstimulation syndrome, where instead of growing 1 or 2 eggs, they may produce 20 eggs in each ovary. Wow. And when this happens, they accumulate fluid in their lungs, they accumulate fluid in their abdomen, they accumulate fluid around their heart, and in 1% of the situation, we have to put them in the hospital. 10, 20 years ago, people used to die from this.
Wow. So we've come a long way, and I know it sounds scary sometimes when you hear the numbers, but when you see these families who come to you like the Ridenours and are able to have a child, how great is that? What does that make you feel?
That's a fantastic, because what you have to remember in our field is if we say the chance of pregnancy in general among all patients with in vitro fertilization, say is 30%, which means 30% of the patients are going to be happy, but remember 70% are going to be depressed. You're going to be depressed with them, and it's extremely frustrating. So obviously when we see a positive pregnancy test, it's a joy.
It's a joy. I like that. It's a joy. Hey, fun on words. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Shaykh, for joining us. And we have a special giveaway today. Dr. Shaykh is donating a free round of in vitro fertilization to one lucky audience member or viewer. We'll explain how you can win in our giveaway segment later in the show.
After the break.
Look at that face. And look at how he's looking at Daddy. It makes it all worth it.
It's absolutely 100% worth it. We got very lucky. I mean, he kind of looks like us a little bit. He acts like us already. We know that this is what we were supposed to do.
Join us on Facebook and on the web at thehourofjoy.com.
Since 1866, Okies has taken care of Roanoke Valley families. We have grown and evolved over these past 145 years, but our dedication to the Roanoke Valley has never wavered. To this day, we are still owned and operated by the Okie family, so we can be flexible when a family has special requests. There are many affordable options, and we will never turn anyone away. Okie's Funeral Service and Crematory. Our family serving yours.
Valley Word Church, a place of hope, a place of healing, a place for family, a place where everyone belongs. Come experience Valley Word Church, Sunday mornings at 10 and Wednesdays at 7. We have a seat reserved just for you.
Luxuries from Europe and beyond. She's international because normal is such a naughty word. She's international, unique just for you. She's international, specializing in the otherwise unattainable fashions. Pashminas, luxury purses, accessories, unique jewelry, Venetian glass, and more. She's international, East Main Street in Salem.
You realize that 49 million Americans struggle with hunger? That's 1 out of every 6 Americans.
These people are around us every day. They're our friends, they're our coworkers, their kids go to school with our kids.
Sometimes we're not even aware that they're struggling. This problem is closer than you think. But so is the solution.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
It's the hour.
another great option for becoming a parent. Liesl and Tim Nerrill recently adopted a baby boy, and they're here to tell us more about their experience. Well, what made you think about adoption or even consider this as an option?
We had started going through some in vitro and other options. We did a lot of infertility testing and everything. We went through in vitro twice and it didn't work either time. And we kind of had considered doing a third time, but we were just like, we just need to take a little break and kind of think about what we want to do. And during that time, we really didn't do much, but you know, every now and then I'd get on the internet and we'd kind of look up adoption and different things. And actually we were at church one day and flipped over the bulletin. There was a little advertisement for adoption orientation classes, and we're like, okay, let's see what that's about. And so we just went and just kind of got more information, and we didn't put in our application right away. We still were like, all right, well, let's think about this. I mean, you know, in vitro is kind of expensive, and we knew adoption was going to be a little bit expensive, and we had gone through in vitro twice, and it was just one of those things where we kind of waited a little bit, and then we finally filled out our application, turned in to Commonwealth Catholic Charities, and then we went on a wait list.
And how long did you wait, Tim? What was that process like? What did you have to do to get ready?
I think our wait time was not typical in a lot of ways. We actually waited from when we put our application in until when we actually got our son Bryson, about 15 months. So that is not, I think, a typical period. I think most people are told it could last anywhere from a couple years up to several years before you're actually chosen and you have a child.
So you feel blessed that it
Absolutely.
didn't take that long.
Absolutely.
So what was the process that you had to go through? I know you put in the application. Was there a home study, or how did they determine that you were ready to do this?
Well, we did that orientation class, and then we were on a wait list, and then once we were able to kind of start the process, I don't actually remember what was first. We did have to do a home study, but we had to do a couple classes first. I think 6 to 8 classes that we went to a group setting, and they kind of talked about the different options, and we did that, and then finally, you know, they would come to our house and do our, you know, make sure our house was okay and
safe, and
safe, and make sure we had the room and everything, and it was just, I mean, really, it was a whirlwind. I mean, we finished our home study. We had to do a profile book, so we had to do like a photo book, pictures of us, a little story of us.
And y'all are so cute. You know when you come on and hold hands that y'all really in love. So I'm sure they're like, oh, they're just the cutest little couple. Well, tell me about the day you got the call. You put in the process. You get this call, and they say, we found a baby for you. What are you thinking, Tim? I see you already tearing up just thinking about it.
So like I said, our adventure was kind of not as typical, I think, as some parents maybe go through that do adopt. We actually were in the process. We had put our application in. We were on the wait list, and it was just for a few months that we were actually in that position. And we got a call from our caseworker saying, she actually called me, which is unusual because she always would call Liesl, but for some reason Liesl was not, she wasn't able to get a hold of Liesl. So she contacted me and had mentioned that there was a baby that was already born, that was just born the day before, that the birth parents had chosen us to be his parents.
And what does that feel like? Were you crying? I mean,
no, actually, he called me, and I was driving home. I had a 45-minute ride home, and I'm like, okay. Like, it was almost shock. I mean, we're like, we kind of went into like, okay, what do we need? We had a room. We had nothing. We had no diapers, or we had nothing. So it was kind of one of those things where we were really, really excited, but we knew we had to kind of get some things in order. And but you know, we got home from the store at about 9 o'clock at night, and we were going to the hospital to meet the birth mother and Bryson the next morning at 9 in the morning.
When you saw him, what did you do?
Cried instantly.
Cried?
Instantly, yeah.
And what about the connection? Because people may wonder, when you don't give birth to the baby, do you feel an instant connection because you know that's your child, Tim? I guess that's a question that people may ask.
Yeah, and for us, it didn't take long for us to have that connection. When you go through something like this, it's very emotional, and it was just such a blessing, and we waited for a long time to get to this point, and so when we did, it was very quickly. We were emotionally attached.
It was
awkward.
awkward.
And is he a daddy's boy, or?
He is a mama's boy. No doubt about it. Yes.
For now. I mean, he's going to be all about daddy soon. We know that.
So you're trying to get in your time now.
Oh yeah, that's what I told him. I was like, hang on. Let me have this now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. And actually, when we coming up next, we'll hear more from the organization that helped them, and we are going to meet the baby.
Dang it, Carl, we can't defend the neighborhood on this piece of...
Scooter's cool, leave it alone.
We need some real rolling thunder, Carl. Would you get off my...
Defending the neighborhood doesn't have to be this hard, neither does getting a car. That's why superheroes choose Member One. Truth, justice, and extraordinary loans.
Now this is what I call some real rolling thunder.
Thanks to Member One, Carl and Roy can once again patrol the neighborhood. Member One, the official home of Carl and Roy and superheroes everywhere.
Good Samaritan Hospice is not a place, but it's a team of people who believe in the philosophy that people matter until they take their last breath.
My mother lived a full life, and she lived the way she wanted to live on her terms. And she died on her terms, and Good Samaritan Hospice made that possible.
For all of us working at Good Samaritan Hospice, we feel that this work is a privilege. We're truly walking on sacred ground.
You realize that 49 million Americans struggle with hunger? That's 1 out of every 6 Americans.
These people are around us every day. They're our friends, they're our coworkers, their kids go to school with our kids.
Sometimes we're not even aware that they're struggling. This problem is closer than you think. So is the solution.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Mattress stores seem to pop up like weeds overnight these days. Who do you trust to make sure you have the one mattress that's right for you? Grand Home Furnishings. We've been taking care of people around here for over 100 years. We have more mattresses than anyone in the area and the know-how to find the one that's right for you. Choose from top brands like Tempur-Pedic, Sealy, Serta, Simmons, Kingsdown, and more. And with Mattress Express, buy it today and start sleeping better tonight. Grand Home Furnishings. Making people happy is what we do best.
It's the hour of joy, joy. It's the
Commonwealth Catholic Charities has helped many families, including Tim and Liesl Narrow, through the adoption process. And here to tell us more about adoption is Program Manager Marge Thornton. Thank you so much for joining us, Marge. I mean, we've heard such a great story from the Narrow family. Tell me about the adoption process. How does someone even get started if they're interested in this?
The best thing to do, Joy, is really to do research, because entering into the adoption process, families really need to think about being consumers, because not every process is going to be the best fit. So once they get to the point emotionally where they may have gone through infertility studies, going through infertility studies or finding out you have an infertility issue, adoption is not a straight line. Not everybody gets there immediately. So when everybody's at the point emotionally where they think, okay, this is my next step, and we're both on the same page, then the research process begins. Contacting an agency, visiting agencies, looking online, and then going to information sessions if they're available. For us, we do one the last Monday of every month. And we do require that all families attend and get an overview so that they can make an informed decision about whether or not adoption is for them or whether or not our agency is the best fit for that family.
Because I understand it can be a long process, because we're talking to Tim and he said it was 15 months from turning in their application to actually being able to get their little baby boy. What's the process? How long can that be for a family?
Typically it's anywhere from 1 to 3 years. It can be a while. There are not tons of children, infants, if you are doing infant adoption, available, and so there is a wait. There are a lot of older children waiting. A lot of families will look at Adopt Us Kids online for looking at older kids from foster care who are available, and even that is not a quick, a quick option. But it takes time.
What about overseas? Is it easier if you want a child, maybe if you go to another country like Ethiopia or China? We see a lot of kids from China who come to the United States. Is that an easier process, or just about takes about the same amount of time?
It can take the same amount of time. It certainly is not an easier process. It is a more expensive process. And as the developing countries that offered international adoption have developed social welfare networks and adoption within their own country, there are fewer options for families choosing international adoption. And the bureaucracy has increased with what's called the Hague Convention, which is a an additional step in the overview process.
You talked about cost. What does it cost? And that's one thing that I was talking to Lisa about, because people think, you know, the infertility process, you know, Dr. Shaykh was saying it starts around $8,000 or more. What are we looking at in terms of adoption? What was it for you?
Well, I don't actually know grand total.
When you think about everything, the whole package, for us, it was upwards around $20,000.
20,000.
And because you need to get an attorney to finalize and the home study. So there's all these little pieces, but all together.
Is that fairly common?
That can be pretty common for our agency. It depends on your income. It is a scale between $6,500 and $20,000. It just depends. But additionally, the attorney fees to finalize,
the home study,
the home study itself, all of that is part of the process. Yes.
What about the qualifications? Because I had heard that before there is an age possibility, age limit, and a lot of people don't think about that. You know, they're thinking, well, I can adopt at any age, but are there age restrictions?
Yes, there are. And again, doing that research, because not every agency has the same policies. Our agency, couples need to be under 45.
Under 45.
When they start the process. So even then, by the time their child is 20 or 21, they're 66. So of course it's not because we don't think older parents would make wonderful parents, because they would. It really has to do with, you know, the child. Well, and what's in the child's best interest.
The other thing I would think about is singles, because what if somebody is, you know, young, single female, she doesn't find that right one, and she wants to have a child. Is it an option for singles?
Yes, it is, and it does depend on the kind of adoption, but because we want families to be successful, and unfortunately, with domestic adoption, in some cases, there are you know young women or couples who choose an adoption plan for their baby. They've already decided that they want their child to be parented by a two-parent family, and so singles are not selected as quickly. And it is a very collaborative process. Birth parents are choosing families, families are deciding what they're open to and what they can handle, and then there's a match process for that.
So it's a lot that goes into it.
There's a lot that
goes into it. But when you look at little baby Bryson, come on in. He is just adorable. Our producer Lexi is bringing him in. When you see that face, look at that face. And look at how he's looking at Daddy. It makes it all worth it. Look at that smile. So when you see him, I mean, when you think about all you went through in the process, what would you say to another couple who's considering it?
It's absolutely 100% worth it. We got very lucky. I mean, he kind of looks like us a little bit. He acts like us already. So, I mean, it was just, I mean, we know that this is what we were supposed to do. So, I mean, he's wonderful. So, everything that we went through before, you know, we don't even think about it. It was,
you know, everybody's journey is different, right? And we kind of had a journey to get to this point, and, you know, we prayed about it, and we put it in God's hands, and this is kind of the final outcome. So.
And he's telling us, tell us about it. Are they good parents? And so just bonding with him and the moments that you have with him, what has that been like? Just being a parent. Yeah, what has that been like? I mean, you were a parent overnight. You didn't even, you know, it was like.
Instantly,
They call you and like, you need to go to the store, get your stuff, be ready.
I mean, we needed a few hours. We're good. But, I mean, it was just, we always knew that we wanted to be parents, and it was, I mean, it didn't take us long at all. We spent the first night in the hospital with him. And so us being in the hospital overnight, you know, he was 2 days old. I mean, that's a bonding experience right away, getting up every couple hours with them. So, I mean, it didn't take long at all. I mean, it was just natural. It was very natural for us.
Well, you guys are just the cutest couple and the cutest family. And let's see if he'll give us a little wave. Can you wave for us?
Hi.
You making your TV debut?
I'm ready.
Well, he's just adorable, and the best of luck to you. And thank you so much coming on from Commonwealth Catholic Charities to kind of tell us about the process. And we'll be right back.
On the next episode of The Hour of Joy with Joy Sutton.
There are a lot of people out there who have dreams, and you guys are living that dream. How do you go from having the dream to living the dream?
My parents told me, you know, follow your dreams, follow your heart, go after what it is you really want in life. You know, you've got one, live it.
You realize that 49 million Americans struggle with hunger? That's 1 out of every 6 Americans.
These people are around us every day. They're our friends, they're our coworkers, their kids go to school with our kids.
Sometimes we're not even aware that they're struggling. This problem is closer than you think. But so is the solution.
Play a role in ending hunger. Visit feedingamerica.org/hunger and find your local food bank.
Experience the salon and day spa that sets the standard in the Valley. Le Chevaux Salon and Day Spa. With an incredible staff of 35 waiting to serve your needs, Le Chevaux tailors to your every desire. From styling to manicures and pedicures, from laser hair removal and facials to massage and couple spa treatments. You'll also find all of your cosmetics, including Bare Mineral, Smashbox Cosmetics, and many others. Plus, find hair care from Bumble and Bumble, Diva Curl, and more. Experience Le Chevaux at our 2 new locations.
Since 1866, Okies has taken care of Roanoke Valley families. We have grown and evolved over these past 145 years, but our dedication to the Roanoke Valley has never wavered. To this day, we are still owned and operated by the Okie family, so we can be flexible when a family has special requests. There are many affordable options, and we will never turn anyone away. Okie's Funeral Service and Crematory. Our family serving yours.
Dang it, Carl, we can't defend the neighborhood on this piece of...
Scooter's cool, leave it alone.
We need some real rolling thunder, Carl. Would you get off my...
Defending the neighborhood doesn't have to be this hard, neither does getting a car. That's why superheroes choose Member One. Truth, justice, and extraordinary loans.
Now this is what I call some real rolling thunder.
Thanks to Member One, Carl and Roy can once again patrol the neighborhood. Member One, the official home of Carl, Roy, and superheroes everywhere.
Closed captioning is brought to you by The Joy of Giving is brought to you by Good Samaritan Hospice. Good Sam for good reasons.
Being a parent isn't the only way to have a special bond with a child. In today's Joy of Giving segment, we're talking to the president and CEO of Big Brothers and Big Sisters, June House, and we have little brother from the program, Dominique Young. Thank you both for joining us. And Dominique, I'm going to start with you. How long have you been with your big brother?
It's going on 10 years now.
10 years. Wow, that's a long time. Is it almost like he's a part of your family like, or what is your bond like?
About the first year, it was just seeing him every so often, and then after that, it kind of went from just going to school to seeing him outside, and ever since then, he's basically just walked right into the family and just stayed there.
So how special has it been to have him in your life?
I'm not really sure what I would do if he wasn't. It's how important it is.
Wow. So he's like this big brother. Does he give you advice? What kind of things does he give you advice? Do you guys go places together? Tell me what your relationship is like.
It goes from pretty much anywhere, like just help from school to giving advice about everything, you know, that I need. If I have a problem, I can bring it to him. And just anything that needs to be taken care of, he'll help out with.
What is something special that you guys have done together? The most special moment that you've had together?
The most special, I would have to say, is probably when I was around 8 or so. We went down to South Carolina and we stayed a couple days on a battleship and everything with a Boy Scout troop. And it was pretty nice. Just being able to hang out with him and my friends at the same time. And out of all the things we've done, that's probably the most memorable one.
And June, I know you hear stories like this all the time.
We
I mean,
do.
10 years to pour into a child's life like Dominique and have somebody there for him, that's huge.
It
Do
is
you see
huge.
this all the time? What are kind of the stories that you experience through your agency?
We do. I mean, you think that only an hour every other week couldn't possibly have that kind of impact, but it really does. And you know, Dominique was only 6 when he was matched, and he was matched in the school-based program, and they transitioned from that 1 hour at the school in a very structured setting over to a community-based program where they could see each other outside of that school setting. And you just don't think that it can have that kind of impact on someone's life. And I think Dominique and Andy have a really special relationship, and we've seen that with many of our matches. And this year is our big reunite year, and it's going on across the country. So, a couple months ago, I was out doing a presentation for United Way, and was at Pepsi Cola, and one of our past little brothers, who's now 54 years old, came up to me and he said, you know, I was a little brother, my mom, we just didn't have a lot of resources. We just didn't have a whole lot. And she got me into the program. I was matched up, and he actually saw his big brother. Now his big brother's in his 70s, late 70s. Wow. But so it really does, it's just incredible. And we hear these stories. Yesterday we had a little brother who grew up, he became a big brother, and him and his family were dropping off a check from their family foundation. So
it's just stories like that.
It's
And you know,
wonderful
and I know
stories.
firsthand just how important the program is, because several years ago I was a big sister. It was a great experience. I spent a lot of time, and then I think she outgrew me. She got to that teenage years. It was like, I call her like, you want to get together? I'm hanging out with the girls now. But my little sister is actually in our audience today. Chastity, will you please stand up? And it has been 10 years since I have seen Chastity. And actually, she contacted me recently. You can see she's become such a beautiful young lady. She graduated from college, and get this, she now wants to be a journalist. So when she contacted me, you can imagine my excitement when she said, I want to be a journalist. So I'm like, well, you called the right person. So maybe I did something right. Well, Chastity, will you join us up here? We want to hear from you. Hi, girl. How are you? Well, Chastity, I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but what does it feel like to see me after all these years? I saw you and I kind of got emotional. I was like, oh my gosh, it's been so long.
Yeah, it has been a really long time.
And so how are things going for you?
Things are going well. Graduated from college, working now, trying to get into grad school, into a journalism program, and you know, I'm just trying to move forward and get my career started.
Mm-hmm. Did I have anything to do with the journalism?
You did. You had a lot to do with it. You did.
Yeah, because do you remember the outings, just different things that we do? How did it impact you when you look back?
When I look back on it, it was a great experience for me because my sister and I, we lived with our grandmother, and she worked a lot, and she took very good care of us. But you know, you didn't have that one-on-one time. So with you, I was able to, you know, experience a little like, you know, personal time and focus on myself, and you know, just get to experience other things outside of my family. It was a great experience for me.
Then you outgrew me. I know. You got interested in the boys and the
No. You know, when you're a teenager, you don't really think about how you're going to be in the future. Chastity now is not the same Chastity then, so I wasn't thinking about what I wanted to do then. I wanted to hang out with friends and stuff like that. So maybe I did kind of outgrow you, but we're reconnected now. So hopefully something can happen from that.
And you know, I'm so proud of you.
Okay,
I mean, to see you go to college and to see you do, and just to see you, just such a beautiful young lady.
Thank you.
And I think it's a testament to what the program does, and just you know, all of the things that they put into helping people be the best they can be. In June, when you even see Chastity and I, you said it's a reunion time even this year for Big Brothers and Big Sisters.
Yes, we've been around for 60 years, so it's hard to imagine. Most of our littles and our bigs are in their 50s and 60s and 70s, so you know, not so little. It is a great time for us to be reuniting everybody and getting these stories out, because there are so many children that still need our help. So just seeing you and Chastity just helps us all think about all the other children that are out there looking, all the little brothers and little sisters. We have about 80 of them on the waiting list, and they just need someone who just gives them a little bit of time and is there for them.
Wow. And thank you for all you do, because I know you're making a difference. Chastity, thank you for coming on. It's so good to see you. Dominique, we know you're going to be doing great things too. 16, you're going to be looking at college soon.
He has to get his driver's license, so Andy's going to help him with that. So, and he's got to get a job next year. So
Andy was sick today, so he wasn't able to come, but he has a lot of work ahead of him. Well, thank you all for coming up, and we'll be right back.
The hour of joy.
Coming up on The Joy of Music.
Do I have to run around with every Joe in town? Do I have to laugh and cry and try to act profound? To be or not to be, or did I get it turned around? Will I walk a million miles for one of your smiles?
Mattress stores seem to pop up like weeds overnight these days. Who do you trust to make sure you have the one mattress that's right for you? Grand Home Furnishings. We've been taking care of people around here for over 100 years. We have more mattresses than anyone in the area and the know-how to find the one that's right for you. Choose from top brands like Tempur-Pedic, Sealy, Serta, Simmons, Kingsdown, and more. And with Mattress Express, buy it today and start sleeping better tonight. Grand Home Furnishings. Making people happy is what we do best.
Valley Word Church, a place of hope, a place of healing, a place for family, a place where everyone belongs. Come experience Valley Word Church, Sunday mornings at 10 and Wednesdays at 7. We have a seat reserved just for you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kathy Jordan. As an executive coach and best-selling author, I've helped hundreds achieve career success, and I can help you too.
The Success Associates have given me the confidence and tools needed to take my career to the next level.
I started out unsure about my career direction. Now, thanks to Success Associates, I have a great career and life balance to enjoy it.
If you can dream it, we can achieve it. Open the door to your future. Call the Success Associates today.
Dang it, Carl, we can't defend the neighborhood on this piece of...
Scooter's cool, leave it alone.
We need some real rolling thunder, Carl. Would you get off my...
Defending the neighborhood doesn't have to be this hard, neither does getting a car. That's why superheroes choose Member One. Truth, justice, and extraordinary loans.
Now this is what I call some real rolling thunder.
Thanks to Member One, Carl and Roy can once again patrol the neighborhood. Member One, the official home of Carl, Roy, and superheroes everywhere.
Guest accommodations for the Hour of Joy with Joy Sutton are provided by Hyatt Place Roanoke Airport. Hyatt Place combines style and innovation to create a completely new hotel experience.
Now is one of my favorite times of the show where we get to give away some great prizes to our studio audience. Someone in our audience will be taking home a free night stay at the Hyatt Place Roanoke Airport. During your stay, you can enjoy specialty Starbucks coffee drinks, the 24-hour guest kitchen, which offers cafe-quality made-to-order meals and snacks, along with a complimentary hot breakfast daily. Another member of our audience will receive a gift certificate to Millermont Serenity Spa, located inside Tanglewood Mall. Serenity Spa offers everything from massages and facials to hair care and manicures and pedicures. And as we mentioned earlier, Dr. Shaykh is donating a free round of in vitro fertilization to one lucky audience member or viewer. Just go to our website under the giveaway section and tell us why you deserve to win this prize. We'll announce the winner on our final show of the season. Now we have a special treat in the Joy of Music. Jazz duo Adele and Rick Carlos are two to tango. Listen as they perform their song, Big Time.
The Joy of Music is brought to you by Vibe, your source for today's best R&B and classic soul.
What have I gotta do to make the big time? What have I gotta do to make it big? What have I gotta do to make the big time? What have I gotta do to make it big? What have I gotta do to make the big time? What have I gotta do to make it big? Do I have to run around with every Joe in town? Do I have to laugh and cry and try to act profound? To be or not to be, or did I get it turned around? Will I walk a million miles for one of your smiles? I'm on my knees, mammy. And you know it ain't easy to walk 1,000,000 miles that way. I wanna be a real big star, play trombone and the jazz guitar, blue eyes and blue-green hair, gonna make 'em all stop and stare. I'm a Broadway girl, never been in a show, never learned to act 'cause I already know how to be a star. It's working so far, gonna make the big time as it gets too hard. I wanna be a real big star, riding in the back of a Cadillac car, big hair and big blue eyes, working real hard, even reading a book. I know all the songs I'm supposed to know 'cause I heard them all on the radio. I'm a real big fan of all the right bands, gonna make the big time, what an excellent plan. What do I gotta do to make the big time? What do I gotta do to make it big? What do I gotta do to make the big time? What do I gotta do to make it big?
And that's going to do it for the Hour of Joy with Joy Sutton. I hope by watching this show you have found there are many ways to be involved in a child's life. Remember, every day is a little brighter when you start it with joy.
The Hour of Joy with Joy Sutton is a production of Sutton